And good morning. It is 17 minutes after 7 o'clock, and joining us in studio this morning, gubernatorial candidate for state of New Mexico here, Greg Zanetti, back with us. Good morning, sir. How you doing today?
Mike, it is great to be back in Roswell. I love this part of the state.
Well, we're glad to have you come by and spend a few times with us today.
You're getting sick of me now, aren't you? I keep coming in here.
Well, before we get too much into the weeds, because that's what we do here, I do want to remind folks that Greg is going to be hosting a meet and greet at the Roswell Chamber of Commerce this afternoon, beginning at 5:30 p.m. It's a come-and-go event, so how long do you plan on hanging out there tonight? Do you know? Or
I'd imagine it'll be about an hour.
Okay.
That's probably it. People want to go home and have their evenings.
So if you can't make it quite at 5:30, if you get there in time before, say, 6:30 or so, you should be around to visit and answer your questions. And, of course, if you're hungry, don't we've got some refreshments and stuff, so don't leave empty-handed there.
Exactly.
Before I do want to, I'm curious, obviously we're now down to, one of the Republican candidates for governor is now switched over to Libertarian. So that,
actually, two of them did.
Yeah. So we're kind of narrowed the race down to a few horses into the, we're down to what, 4, I think, total here, or 5, I can't remember.
5. We're down to 5.
5 total here. Well, does that change your plan, strategy at all, or looking at the way things are happening, or you just keep doing your thing?
We just keep doing our thing, putting the message out, and it's a different message.
Sure.
And so, Mike, do you remember last time I was here, Afghanistan had just kind of happened.
That's when, we left people behind, and just up and left.
And we were talking about not only the humiliation of that and how poorly Biden handled all that, but some of the ramifications. And we said that when the world sees this kind of thing out of a superpower, that confidence in our currency drops. And when that happens, typically you get more inflation, you get prices rising,
right? Because
people are dumping your currency on the international markets. And that's exactly what we saw, isn't it? Over the last, 5 months, 6 months, we've seen the price of gasoline going up. We've seen the price of chicken and beef and everything out there. And everybody's blaming COVID. Yeah, all right, I get that. And we're also blaming supply chains. Yeah, I get that. But we're actually ignoring a pretty big part of it in the bigger picture, what's happening. So now it's kind of amazing I'm back here today, and now it's Ukraine. And I don't know, I'm looking at the maps. Putin has mobilized, over 1 million men?
Yeah.
It's stunning. We've mobilized 8,500.
It's a drop in the bucket.
Yeah, it's not exactly a serious deterrent. And so once again, we're at this precipice of confidence in the United States will be dropping, especially under this administration, which seems rather inept. And I would expect you're going to see the inflation start to pick up higher.
Gotcha.
All right. So what does this have to do with New Mexico? I mean, that's really always the question.
Sure.
How? Because, I'm not running for commander-in-chief here.
Of New Mexico.
Yeah, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff of New Mexico. There you go. What are we going to do? And here's the great advantage New Mexico has. And I can't remember if we talked about this last time, but the wealthy people of the world, and I've managed billions of dollars for some of the richest people in the world. It's one of the blessings I've had. And I was also the commanding general at Guantanamo Bay.
Yeah, you've got military and financial experience back in, just over life here. So you kind of got a knowledgeable expertise opinion in both.
Yeah, I've been very blessed. I mean, you get to command, thousands of troops.
Sure.
And if you're looking for a governor who understands leadership at those levels and, complex bureaucracies, General Zanetti works. Plus, yes, I've gotten to manage money for billionaires. By the way, we're getting sidetracked a little bit, but the billionaires are working against us. You need to know that. Your listeners need to know that. We're seeing what's happening with the lower class and the middle class and how the wealth is getting sucked up.
Right.
Well, you might want to have a governor who understands how that's happening and how we stop it.
Gotcha.
And how the rich Wall Street guys take advantage of our permanent funds, how they take advantage of our retirement funds and the investments. So anyway, actually kind of segues to this. So the rich people of the world think differently. They don't think in terms of money, Mike. They think in terms of wealth.
Okay.
And there are foundationally 3 kinds of wealth in the world. There's spiritual wealth. It's actually the most important of all of them.
We all, I think most of us, if not all of us, hope to obtain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not running for high priest either. So we're not. Let's stay in the horizontal.
Sure.
There's wealth from the earth. I want you to think oil, gas, timber, aluminum, corn, cotton, gold, silver, the stuff God made.
Natural resources.
Natural resources. Is New Mexico rich in wealth from the earth?
I would say yes.
It is
absolutely
stunning what we have. I mean, the oil and gas, the timber, by the way, we treat these industries poorly, which is unbelievable. We have uranium, we have aluminum, we have copper. Do you know we have 4 of the 17 rare earth elements?
Wow.
Right. Anyway, but it's all bottled up. All right. There's another kind of wealth, though. It's wealth from human hands. It's taking that aluminum and making an airplane. Wow, that's wealth to me.
Sure.
My cell phone, the computer, my car. Now, that's a moving target. 150 years ago, wealth from human hands was, railroads. And we all know the progression. Cars, radios,
Sure.
TVs, and now we're here.
Right.
Mike, what's the next stuff that's coming? Micromachinery, nanotechnology,
Sure.
artificial intelligence, quantum computing. Where was that stuff born?
Well, right here.
In
Yeah.
New Mexico.
Yeah.
So we have wealth from the earth and wealth from human hands, and yet we're in last place. All right, so what are we going to do? Let me give you an example of what I think could happen under the Zanetti administration.
Okay.
And let's talk about something really basic, water. Mm-hmm. You think that's going to be a pretty big issue going forward?
It's been since the existence of this state. I can't imagine it will stop anytime soon.
Did you know that New Mexico is the Saudi Arabia of brackish water? And
I know. Well, we know we're very blessed here in the Roswell area. That's something we've known for years.
Right.
We talk about water droughts and things, and we're generally not in those conversations.
No, but brackish water is, kind of salty, minerally. We have reservoirs of brackish water all over this state that are billions of acre feet. It's at least 1,000 years worth of water by conservative estimates.
Gotcha.
But you can't really drink it straight from the ground.
Right.
All right. So why aren't we going over to Israel and all those desalination plants where the high tech there has just soared? And as those desalination plants have gotten more technical and better, the prices have come down, just like on computers.
Gotcha.
All right, well,
It's now a viable financial technology.
Right.
Yeah.
And here's how you make it more viable. Fort Bliss, Texas, just down the road, they deemed fresh water a national security issue. So what they did was they went in with the city of El Paso and they said, hey, look, let's build a 30 million gallon a night desalination plant.
Okay.
We'll share the cost between the Department of Defense and the city. And as we do this together, we'll share the water. So New Mexico has what? 3 Air Force bases and 2 national labs. Why aren't we teaming up the way El Paso did and saying, let's build a desalination plant? All right. So now, by the way, brackish water doesn't come with water rights. It's basically ours.
Gotcha.
And we don't have to share it with Texas under these compacts.
Okay.
It's ours.
Gotcha.
All right. So next step, the cost of desalination, yes, it's coming down. The cost to pump fresh, clean water hundreds of miles, water's heavy, is going up. The lines haven't crossed yet, but they're getting closer, and we've got to get ahead of this. So it's the energy cost on the desalination. So let me throw this out to your listeners. Have you heard of small modular nuclear reactors?
I've heard of them. I don't know a whole lot about them, but I've heard of them. I know the idea behind them.
It's 5th generation stuff. No cooling towers. I don't know. One of these is about the size of a McDonald's.
Okay.
Mike, it'll power 60,000 homes.
That would be the city of Roswell and a few extra to spare there.
Well, sure. And it's not competing against the oil and gas industry.
Yeah.
Right. So, by the way, I'd love for us to be the water state and the energy state. But let's just keep going. Weren't we the uranium state? Weren't we the atomic state?
Yeah.
And don't we have this geologic wonder just down the road in Carlsbad, those salt pits where you can store nuclear waste safely for a couple hundred years until it's safe? Yeah. All right. Well, what if you paired up these state-of-the-art desalination plants along with the reactors, and you said, okay, during the day, the small modular nuclear reactors will run your city. At night, it'll be the energy to clean your water. And then we sell the excess electricity to California at a profit.
I like it.
Could you see it?
It makes sense to me.
Right.
I mean, yeah.
Right. So now what are we doing? We're combining wealth from the earth, water, with both from human hands, all this high-tech stuff, And could New Mexico start to keep some of its young people?
Sure.
And you can keep people in the trades because we're going to need that there. But we can also keep the techies. And wouldn't you want to keep both?
So what's stopping us from doing that right now? Is it strictly government regulation and discouraging companies like this that do that to come to this state? Is that our big problem, or is it more than that?
Well, it's a leadership issue.
Okay.
And we've got a tax structure that punishes creativity, entrepreneurship,
Gotcha.
Private enterprise. And we also have a legal structure that makes it difficult for companies because they're always terrified of getting sued. I mean, I kind of jokingly say New Mexico's economic development plan consists of casinos, weed, and personal injury attorneys. And that's kind of what we've come to.
Sure.
And if it weren't for the southeastern part of the state, in Farmington and actually the ag parts contributing to the economy, we wouldn't have much here.
Sure.
And yet, those are the industries we treat poorly. It's an outrage.
And I would think, and this is, again, I'm a dumb radio DJ, but I would think by encouraging the high tech sector really moving in, which in essence what we're doing here to these different areas, that's going to force our education to up its game too.
Yes.
Speaking of last and everything, that's something we're perennially last in, and everyone scratches their head like, why are we last? And well,
Mike, I could fix education in 3 easy steps.
Okay.
You ready? Step 1, we need to declaw the public education department. We didn't used to have a PED.
Yeah.
This was a Bill Richardson invention. And over the last 20 years, as public education in this state improved, I would say no.
Right.
If you had an employee here who did a lousy job for 20 years, you would fire him or her.
Gotcha.
Now, can the governor get rid of the PED? No. But can those regulations they promulgated be revoked and pulled back?
Sure.
Sure. Can you shrink that department? Yes. Can you change the attitude in the department among the leadership, saying instead of the top-down pointy finger in the chest kind of thing we're doing to the whole state, say, what are you going to do to help those communities?
Sure.
So step number 1, declaw PED. Step number 2, push the power and control in education back down to the local level.
Gotcha.
Local school boards, the way we used to do it, dealing with the local communities on local issues with the local kids and parents. And step number 3, now here's financial advisors, Zanetti, always follow the money. Like, how does the money flow now in education in this state? It starts with politicians. Then it flows to bureaucrats. Then the money flows to unions. Then it goes to administrators. Then it goes to teachers, parent, and child.
Gotcha.
Mike,
at the very bottom there.
Yeah, flip it. The money ought to be starting with the child, and then it should follow the child to any school they want. Public school, great. Private school, parochial school, charter school, trade school.
Sure.
Whatever the parents decide.
They decide what's best for their family.
Well, sure. And now what happens? Aren't parents and teachers kind of natural allies?
You would think, yeah, absolutely.
That's what I've noticed.
Yeah.
We've got wonderful teachers out there. And now what happens is as the parents and the teachers, collaborate and work, education will go up and the need for administration shrinks. And unions and the bureaucrats and the who cares about them?
Sure.
Could we do that in New Mexico? Yes. So, yeah, when you're actually putting this all together, the education along with a different economic model.
Sure. Well, the one begets the other.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're going to have this opportunity to do it here because the Biden administration and MLG are pretty much so inept that we're probably coming toward what I call the shift. We can all feel these are kind of serious times, and they're going to get more serious. Our currency is going to be under assault here.
Sure.
And as that happens and as prices rise and people start to feel this stress financially, Mike, people act out.
Right.
You see rising crime. You see rising civil unrest, rising social unrest.
Sure.
And so now you're going to need some leadership to kind of deal with this. All right. The general Zanetti part. Oh, by the way, the border will exacerbate all of this stuff we just talked about. It's really all about public safety and about how do you restore order. And it's not top down. It's not what people think. You got to declare martial law. It's actually the exact opposite. The way to restore order is bottom up, where parents protect the kids, where neighbors protect each other, businesses protect each other, and you empower them to do it from the bottom up.
People investing in their own backyard.
Yes, right.
Yeah.
And then on the border issue, every candidate's going to come in here and say, I'm going to deploy the National Guard. Okay, got it.
And then what?
Well, yeah, I'm the only, general in this whole thing, and I was a National Guard general. Mm-hmm. Right. So which units are going to deploy? Are they going to be platoon size? Company? How about battalions? What's their mission? How are they going to integrate with ICE and with the Border Patrol and with the first responders and police? What's the chain of command?
The actual X's and O's of the operation.
Right. Yeah. You better do this right. Mm-hmm. And then the next part is, do you believe the Biden administration is going to pay to mobilize our National Guard, or is that going to be a state mission where we have to pay for it?
I'm pretty sure we're not going to see help from the feds.
Exactly. Yeah. So let's think it through. We could very well drain the Treasury as the money goes to the border. Now the money's not going to schools, not going to roads and bridges and sewers. And if you deploy poorly, not only will you not secure the border, but you'll drain the Treasury.
Gotcha.
You might want to have a governor who understands the money side of it and understands the military side of it, so that we can do it smart.
Sure.
Can it be done? Yes. And we should do it. Yes, but let's do it wisely.
Well, and I think that's the onus is on we, the public, to understand the difference between actual workable solutions versus what's smoke and mirrors, what's public just presentation. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
All right, we're going to send the Guard because that sounds like a good idea.
Sure.
But most of us, that's where we stop to think, oh, they're doing something about it. They sent the Guard.
Right.
Okay, well, what does that mean?
Right.
And you're right. Okay. To actually do stuff that's actually working things. And here's something, too, is because of the world we live in, what's needed to be done isn't always the most popular opinion. And so what I mean by that is we all agree this is the right way to go, but because the world's just what it is, there's going to be people that poke holes and turn it and have a platform big enough where there's people listening to them to think that some things that we think are common sense are now not common sense. So dealing with that on top of this world is just kind of crazy.
Oh, no, I mean, you're right. And, back to your first point, I'm so sick of the platitudes, 30-second talking points. That's why I love shows like this. You can develop an idea rather than, I love kids. All right, I'm glad you love kids and puppies. Got it. How are we going to change this state?
But I think we as a community need to be smart enough to recognize that. And I think, obviously our government, our country is everyone's responsibility. That's
right.
The whole point of, we the people, that's
right.
We're the ones that run it. We the makeup of it. If we don't like it, we change it. That's how this country works. Right. But to do that effectively, we the public, we the people have to educate and make ourselves
right.
I hate to put it this way, but stop letting ourselves be victims. Just taking things at face value. Do your own research. Do your own studying. Ask your questions and things. I just think we live in a lazy world right now where I saw on Facebook must be the Bible. You know what I mean? And I think we the people, that's a problem I think we as a nation have too. I mean, we even if we present good leadership, we got to be smart enough to be able to understand what it looks like.
No, I agree. But look what we've incentivized.
Yeah.
We've incentivized people to stay home, smoke weed, watch video games, and order pizza. Well, and say this is going to work.
Sure.
All right, we need to switch the incentives. And we need to start rewarding enterprise and entrepreneurship and the private sector, because right now the government sector is crowding all this out.
Right.
The goal of the Zanetti administration is to go the opposite way. We need to shrink Santa Fe. We need to be pushing power and authority back down. And Mike, we're the cavalry. Nobody's coming to save us. It's us.
Right.
And we have to adopt the attitude. Just a quick story here. People used to say to me when I was commanding at Gitmo, they would say, "What's it like having all those people work for you?" And I'd say, "You've got it all wrong.
Yeah.
I work for them." And anytime the people are saying, "Oh, look what the governor did," the governor's off. It's got to be what we did. What did we do together? And again, bottom up, empowering the people at the local levels, which means Santa Fe must give up power.
Sure.
I would love to do that. And there are a bunch of people out there who are willing to go along with this. Let me just give you a couple of examples. I'm getting phone calls from northern New Mexico conservative Catholic families.
Okay.
Saying, Greg, we're sick of her. We want to talk to you. You're reasonable. Come up and have dinner with the family. Like, I've never seen this before in New Mexico politics, where families are reaching out to a conservative Republican saying, hey, we need to change this state. They've gone too far.
Their family values are threatened.
That's right.
Yeah.
And they also see that promises are being broken, that the Democrats said, oh, we're going to take care of you. We'll provide for your kids. We're providing for you. We took care of your parents. Those mean Republicans, they'll just throw you out in the ocean and watch you drown. And yet now, as prices rise, and those paychecks that used to cover, the mortgage and insurance and gas and food, now those paychecks only cover the mortgage.
Right.
And they're saying, you lied to me. You said you'd take care of me, and now you're not. So now we need to be there with a message that says, here's our alternative. And it can't be that I told you so message. That's not going to play. And so you've heard what I've talked about here today. We're talking about water. Is that a Republican or a Democrat issue, or is that a New Mexico issue?
Yeah, that's very New Mexico.
All right. How about energy for the whole state?
Yeah.
Right. These are issues. What about crime and the border? These things cross party lines. This has to be our message. And so this is what the Zanetti for Governor campaign is all about.
Gotcha.
So anyway, I'm talking too much.
I do want to, we're in the middle of the legislative session right now and seeing things going on. Obviously, as a Republican governor, you're going to be probably, headbutting with a lot with the legislature, because it's been liberal since New Mexico's been a state.
Right.
I mean, how do you work there? And because I would just love to get that back to the middle. I'm not even talking about making it conservative. I just want it balanced, where good government can come out of there, where you've got a good balance of conservatives and liberals working together to try to figure these things out. We're nowhere near that. I mean, is there any way, how do you kind of crack into that a little bit?
There is a way.
Okay.
And we have a model. It was actually President Trump.
Okay.
Do you remember the first 2 years of his administration? Congress, even the Republicans weren't with him. So what did he do? He said, all right, let's get the cabinet together and let's go about this regulatory way. And he said, basically, we're going to have a competition. Who can erase the most regulations, department by department? And that's what it became. Every cabinet meeting, I erased 23 regulations this week. I did 16. We only did 8. It was this kind of thing.
Gotcha.
And as the regulatory relief came, did you see how the economy popped those first 2 years?
Sure.
Could a governor do that here without the legislature? Going and saying, we're going to cut these regulations.
Okay.
We're going to get rid of this red tape. Like, what about this? What if you wanted to start a business in this state, whether organically from someone here or from out of state?
Gotcha.
And the Economic Development Department assigned somebody to you and said, sir, I'm here to get you through all the permitting, all the zoning, all the legal processes to get you up and going within a week.
Gotcha.
And by the way, we've noticed that in your industry, what you're doing, you've got some allies over here in Roswell or Carlsbad or Artesia. Maybe you want to plant the business there. And by the way, we've got some land that you might be interested in. But concierge service, how can we help you build a business here rather than what we're doing now, which is you'll do this, you'll do that, you'll do this. And if you don't, we're going to shut you down. Imagine that changing in the state. So do you need legislative support to do that kind of thing? No, the governor could do that. So these are the kinds of things that I want to happen under the Zanetti administration, which is why I keep coming to Roswell, because you guys think like this.
Sure.
You're entrepreneurs. You create wealth.
Sure.
And you do it. We started the show, Wealth from the Earth, Wealth from Human Hands. What's this fracking stuff all about? Oil's about as low tech as it gets. And you guys are drilling down, 2 miles?
Something like that, yeah.
And then you're going horizontally another mile? and you're bringing oil out of rocks. It's unbelievable. We should be celebrating what you guys do, not punishing you.
Well, and then and a lot of folks around this area know about the strain, the veins they're hitting down there in the Pecos Valley. I mean, I think they're finding new ones there, and there's oil down there long after your grandkids are going to be here. They found plenty of it here, and this is something we've always said, and you obviously know this. It's the people that attack oil and gas. They don't realize it impacts every aspect of their life. If you own anything that's got plastic in it, guess what? You're supporting. And I just, the people that are so anti oil and gas, I'm like, you don't realize how much you need it. And I'm not saying to find better ways. Well, I'm always for finding better ways for things. But you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater in the meantime. You know what I mean? And
I do.
And that's what I feel like we got going on a lot here. It's like, to get better at things, sure. If we can find a different way to do energy, I think oil and gas is going to be a part of that regardless for as long as we're alive and everything else. And I don't know. I think there's a lot of stigmas out there that and it's smear campaigns, and everyone tries to make the big bad wolf out of one thing so they can get people to vote the way they want you to and all that. And I don't know. We're really hurting our economy, our way of life by just some ridiculous stuff, and then obviously you get the Hollywood types out there that they get, and everyone believes them because they're famous and they know less than you do about what's going on.
Can I give you maybe another perspective on it?
Sure.
It's a leadership perspective.
Yeah.
And I saw this just as I was leaving command at Gitmo. This was when President Bush was leaving and President Obama was coming in. Mike, do you remember what the very first executive order was that Obama signed? Close Guantanamo Bay.
Okay.
All right, got it. Send us home. All right, so I called up to the Pentagon. All right, who's coordinating this? Mike, no one had been assigned. Talk to the State Department contingent there at Gitmo. All right, you guys are going to do something with these knuckleheads. Where are they going? Nobody knew anything. The Air Force had no idea where these guys were going to be flown to. And so it was my first experience with leadership by decree.
Okay.
Pronouncements. I declare we shall close Gitmo. And the leader leaves the room. Can you imagine running your radio station like this?
Right.
Or any business like this?
Sure.
All right, what happened in Afghanistan? Biden did the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. We shall leave on August 31st. There was no planning, no coordinating. We leave all this stuff behind, all this humiliation. Mm-hmm. What's MLG and what do the new Green Deal people act like? It's by decree. We announce we shall have new Green Deal and we will be totally, energy and oil independent by blah, blah, blah with solar. Well, none of it's real.
Sure.
They think they can just pronounce it and it will magically happen.
Well, see, to me, and that's the same vein with the marijuana stuff.
Right.
Love it, hate it, whatever, marijuana's here. And I think that's going to be the trend. At some point, the feds are going to legalize it. It's going to be like booze and everything else, which, agree, disagree. It's whatever it is. But I feel like New Mexico did the same thing. We're going to make it recreational. Great. Beginning here, but they gave no guidelines. They gave no marching orders or any kind of parameters on how this gets. And now we've got municipalities and counties across the state scrambling to try to figure out how to implement this by April, whenever the date is in April that comes out here. That's to me, that's exactly what you're talking about. It's like, great, you decree it, but we have no thing in place, and I'm telling you, when it all hits April, I bet it's going to be a huge goat rope for people until they figure this out.
And Mike, you just nailed it. Yeah. When you have leadership by decree, then either people overreach because they start to take responsibility for things. Well, I don't know. I guess I better take charge. Or you have people who are paralyzed. Well, I don't know what to do, so maybe I won't do anything.
Sure.
And so then you get confusion. And this is what we've got going on in this state right now. Mm-hmm. So, again, I've been very blessed. I've gotten to command, platoons of 30, and I've gotten to command joint task forces of thousands.
Sure.
And it's just a big difference on leadership at each of these levels. But the principles are the same, though.
Sure.
You've got to build really good teams, everybody kind of working together. What's our end goal? And you think it through, and then along the way you adjust, because no plan is ever going to be perfect right out of the box. And that's been one of my huge objections with this administration. Let's just take COVID. all right, I get it. 2 years ago, nobody knew what was going on. We were all kind of freaking
Caught
out.
with their pants down.
Well, sure. And then what is this? Is it a bioweapon? Where did it come from? What's it going to do to us? And so initially, all right, I understand the need for the caution. But by summer of that year, it was getting pretty clear we ought to be adjusting.
Mm-hmm.
And other states began, and we didn't. And what's happening today? We're going to extend the mask mandates even more after the evidence just piled up that this is all wrong. And yet we continue down the same path because that's how you, by decree, heaven forbid you admit you did something wrong. Well, real leaders don't think like this. You adjust. What's an old saying? It's survival isn't of the strongest or the most intelligent or the fastest. Mm-hmm. Survival is of the most adaptable.
Yeah.
Good leaders adapt.
Sure.
Anyway.
You're absolutely right. It's kind of, it's one of those things where we as a society, we got to think a little bit more. It's just, and I blame everybody. I mean, we have our leaders and things, but I think the onus is on us, the public, to educate ourselves, to be more proactive about that kind of thing. And
sure.
And I think that's the only real way we prevent some of that kind of stuff is we got to wisen up our public ourselves. We've got to be a little bit more hip to the tactics and the understanding and reading between the lines on things, especially in a day and age where the real from fiction, that line is blurrier than it used to be. It was a little more cut and dry, and technology and things have made things, you know what I mean? I
do.
I mean, like words like a picture's worth 1,000 words, that doesn't mean anything anymore. You know what I mean? It's like, sure, in this day and age, but I can do this, and this, and that picture's now my 1,000 words. You know, and so and you almost have to have that same mindset in everything you do here, you know, and so we got to be smart about it. But like you said, you know, we also need to expect more from the people that do lead us and demand transparency in some of these things. And I don't know. And I'm also, this is getting really philosophical.
Oh, keep going.
Because I'm a guy that kind of, that we've ended up with politicians that serve the party, not the people. And that's where we've gone wrong, where the party's power is almost superseding what it should be. And it's gotten to the point where these people are no longer looking out for what's best for the United States of America or New Mexico or what we're talking about here. They're looking out for the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. You know what I mean? And that's and it's both sides. I'm not going to try to just say this is all a liberal thing. It's not. It's a two-party. They both have been doing this, my opinion, since the Civil War. But just gradually over time here, and I think we kind of got to wisen up a little bit on this, and kind of almost. I think we, the people, should hold the fire to the party's feet and make them adapt back to serving us rather them. And how do we do that? I don't know, but I think that's where we need to lean a little bit.
Oh, no, you've nailed it.
Yeah.
Men and women, right, on both sides, pursuing their political ambitions. And actually the word that sums it up in our society right now, I believe, is selfie.
Yeah.
You know, you hold the camera up and look at me, look at the food I made. It's all about me, I. Well, we need to just reverse that. Mm-hmm. Politicians should rarely use the word I. It should be about us. It should be about we.
Sure.
It should be about how are we going to help others.
Absolutely.
And when the focus turns toward others, well, suddenly you're not so important. And there's a spiritual component to this.
Sure.
We kind of need to get straight in the vertical. And the corruption, we really need to uncover the corruption and start prosecuting it.
Absolutely.
And
well, you're talking about billionaires and all. There's exactly so many layers of that it would take probably eons to unravel and go through, but that's the system. We all speak of the man, the system. That's all of that, and yeah, we gotta. How do we do all that in people? It's
Right.
There's a lot of power and money behind all of that, and they're very good at covering. They've been doing it long before we've been around. It's the way of the world, and but
so let's change the way of the world in New Mexico.
Absolutely, and start pulling it one way or pulling that into the light one at a time, and that kind of will start toppling it, piecemeal, I think.
No, many times in history you will see someone or a group of people who are the least suddenly change their mindset and become the best. Right now, all right, New Mexico's at the bottom of everything. All right, got it. I'm so sick of hearing about that. I can't stand it.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about it?
Well, it's almost just now a talking point for the next political group. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like I've been in New Mexico since 1997.
Right.
And I have not, and that mantra has not changed since 1997 when I've been here. And I'm sure it was going on long before I got here too. But, I've been here, 20 plus years, and it has not changed. And it's not even made any kind of progress, to be honest with you. And so, you're right. It's time to do something about that.
Here's where I'm going to give you hope.
Okay.
It's kind of a weird mix of hope and serious times are coming. Do you know New Mexico used to be a Republican state?
Really?
Yep.
When was this?
Well, so as a territory, we weren't even allowed into the Union because we were anti-slavery.
Okay.
And it was the Democrats who were pro-slavery.
Yes.
And then we came into the Union. We were all Republican until 1928.
Okay.
And then the Depression hit. Now, this will shock you, but Republicans had been in power so long, we had become corrupt.
Gotcha.
It's just human beings,
Sure.
right?
Too much power is, absolutely.
For too long. And so the Depression hit, and people said, you Republicans betrayed us. You told us you would do these things. You told us this would happen. It's all fallen apart, and you lied. Mm-hmm. And the switch flipped. And you can see it in the charts. We went from Republican to Democrat in one cycle, and Mike, we never looked back.
Gotcha.
All right, well, now the Democrats have been in power for, 90 plus years, and they've become corrupt.
Sure.
Because it's natural, human thing. And they are breaking promises. We have to be there with a message, an alternative on how we can change this state.
Gotcha.
And again, I call this the shift. Typically, a shift historically takes about 3.5 years.
Okay.
All right, right. Can we get through that? Yeah. Are we good at it? Yes, actually, we're quite good at it.
We've been doing it for a while now.
Yeah. And it's the cycle of things. So we elect the right leadership now. You have a plan for the future that is different than what we've been doing for the last decades that hasn't worked.
Gotcha.
And we say, all right, here's the message. Join us. And it's not your traditional Republican, Democrat like you're saying. Mm-hmm. But the focus is on how are we going to do this from the bottom up? And you watch how this state will change, go from worst to first.
Nice.
Anyway, that's what I see. That's why I'm running.
Well, I appreciate you spending time. We're running out of it here.
I talk too much.
Good news is if you want to carry this discussion more with Greg Zanetti, he's going to be at the Roswell Chamber of Commerce.
5:30.
5:30, 131 West 2nd, if you're not familiar with where it's located. So hang out about an hour or so. It's a come-and-go meet and greet.
And I'll be in Artesia today at 11 at their chamber.
So folks listening in Artesia, we're going to be heading in Artesia during about the lunch hour.
11 to 12.
About 11 to 12. Come on by the Artesia Chamber, and you can sit down and visit. If not, then come on be at 5:30 here in Roswell. So,
Mike, thanks for having me on again.
Anytime. Appreciate the visit, and we look forward to our next conversation down the road here.
Roger that.
All right. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you.